Tequila to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. I want to talk about some out-of-nowhere impact players the 49ers could have in 2023. And it's not something that is very shocking to anyone that is a fan of the 49ers, that there could be some guys that just come out of nowhere that finally get their opportunity to shine and make something happen. We saw it last year with Talanoa Hufanga. Yes, a lot of people saw the instincts in his rookie year, but with two chances to get on the field, going from playing 41% of the snaps to playing almost the entire time, you saw a different type of Talanoa Hufanga. You saw all the things that he learned in year one that made it possible for him to be the impact player he was in year two. He absolutely flew onto the scene. And his counterpart, Tashaun Gipson, did the same thing. He came out of nowhere. Even though lots of people knew who Tashaun Gipson was, the fact that he ended up making an impact for the 49ers was what was really surprising, considering he didn't even come to the 49ers until the last preseason game of the year. So those two guys came out of nowhere. Of course, Aaron Banks went from being what some were already considering a bust after not getting on the field his rookie year to starting. His counterpart, Spencer Burford, steps up as a rookie, makes plays. Dre Greenlaw did the same thing as a rookie in 2019. And then there's players like De'Amon Lenoir, who stepped up last year in place of Emmanuel Mosley and had a really, really good season. You can see this is something that happens within the 49ers organization. They have a draft and development process, which when there's turnover, you have other opportunities to make plays, and you have other opportunities for stars to be born. And the 49ers have definitely had some success with that throughout the years. So this is not something that is too shocking. I'm going to try to leave out some of the bigger named guys who are going to make an impact on this team because they're probably not coming out of nowhere. So I'm not going to talk about Javon Hargrave. I'm not going to talk about Isaiah Oliver, because even though Oliver's kind of flown under the radar as far as his NFL career, I don't think he's really flying under the radar as far as San Francisco or the 49ers are concerned. Many fans talking about Isaiah Oliver, many content creators are talking about Isaiah Oliver, and I've been talking about Isaiah Oliver as well. So with coming out of nowhere, you have to have opportunity to get on the field. My first out of nowhere contributor for the 49ers, I think he's going to make a huge impact in this season, even though he's probably going to play about 25% of the snaps, and that's Oren Burks. Oren Burks came over last year from Green Bay, brought over primarily for his special teams prowess, but they knew Azeez Al-Shaair was going to be leaving in free agency. There was no way they were going to be able to keep him on the roster for 2023, so he was going to move on. He ended up going to the Tennessee Titans. With that, left a void, and I believe Oren Burks is going to fill that void. He's a big linebacker. He moves well, and he did very good as the season progressed. You've seen a guy get more comfortable with his position and what he was doing at that Sam linebacker spot. He was able to help in base 4-3 sets and did pretty good in coverage as well. So Oren Burks is a guy that I believe can take that next step. Playing for Coach Hollins, you know you're going to learn the techniques inside and out. And seeing that improvement from when he first got to San Francisco until the end of the season means I believe he's going to take even the next step. Been taking all the first-team reps during OTAs, during minicamp, and I believe he's going to be the guy they feel most comfortable next to Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And I think he could be poised to have a really good season. He's also in a contract year, so he's going to want to go out there and show up and show out. And this is his opportunity to prove he's an every down linebacker. Playing in this position, 25% of the snaps, you just seen your player that was with you last year, Azeez Al-Shaair, go out and get a pretty good contract on the open market. That's what Oren Burks wants to do, and I think he's got the tools. He moves very quickly. He's got good eyes. He can make tackles in the open field. He knows his run responsibilities, fills holes, stays home so he doesn't get confused on counters and plays coming to the backside. He's there for the cutback lane. To me, he's a very solid player that has all the tools to be a big-time linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers in 2023. I think Oren Burks comes on the scene and he makes an impact early on, and I think he solidifies himself as a guy that the 49ers can count on holding off potential impact players in D. Winters and Jalen Graham, who I do believe have the necessary abilities to make an impact on the 49ers. I just believe it could be after Oren Burks turns 2023 into a showcase in which he goes out and gets a bigger contract on the open market next year, and then Graham or Winter step in 2024 and take over that Sam linebacker spot. So Oren Burks, I think, is going to be the guy this year, and I believe he's going to make an impact. I think he will be very important for this 49ers run defense, and these linebackers are going to be able to run free because of really good interior defensive line play coming from Eric Armstead and coming from Javon Hargrave. So excited about Oren Burks. Next up, opportunity for Danny Gray to make an impact and come out of nowhere and make something happen. Last year, of course, there was a lot of optimism about what Danny Gray could add to this offense, a third-round pick, and the 49ers were looking at the potential of Gray with his vertical ability running a 4.3 and Trey Lance with that big arm being able to get him the ball down the field. And we get into the preseason, and the first time that Trey Lance hooks up with Danny Gray, it goes for a long touchdown, and it had everyone's thoughts going in one direction. And this isn't different from what Trey Lance has did in previous preseasons as well, where he hit Trent Sherfield for a big home run touchdown bomb, and everyone was hyping up Sherfield. So Danny Gray had a little bit of a learning curve going into his rookie season. You have to learn how to play wide receiver for Kyle Shanahan, and he is so tough on these wide receivers. But we've seen all the other wide receivers before him continue to have growth and success as they learn from Kyle Shanahan and this coaching staff. So I believe that Danny Gray is ready to take that next step. I think he's going to take more snaps than he had last year, and I believe he's going to catch more balls over the middle of the field because he definitely can do that. One of the things he did at SMU was catch these crossing patterns and make house calls because of his elite speed. I think that ends up being on the docket for the 49ers. And depending on who the quarterback is, that's when we'll really see how much of a vertical threat Danny Gray can be in the NFL. If it's Trey Lance or Sam Darnold, look for there to be some absolute bombs down the field. If it's Brock Purdy, look for it to be more timing, but still shots down the field. You don't have to throw it 50 yards to allow him to get open. You get into cover two, you throw it between the corner and the safety, and then you allow him to use that elite speed to go make some plays. So I think Danny Gray could come on the scene. I think it'll be an increased role for him, more snaps, more touches, not just getting the ball down the field, but also quick screens, little reverses and fly sweeps, which we saw him do last year. Jet sweep to the outside, gets 12 yards. Those are things that Danny Gray can do within this offense, and I see an increased role as he has proven now that he can do what Kyle Shanahan wants him to do, from the routes that he runs with the aggressive style to be able to make everything look the same. So then when you come out of your break, you can create separation. All that to the way he blocks and how he's going to be efficient in the run blocking area, I think are reasons why Danny Gray gets more snaps, and with more snaps, more production. And I think Danny Gray is going to make an impact on this 49ers team. Do I think it's going to be an impact that, it puts him on the scene as far as the league goes? I'm not sure I want to go that route, but I think he could contribute with a couple touchdowns and some explosive plays that changes the way defenses want to approach the 49ers offense. And I think ultimately that's what Danny Gray is. He's another piece for Kyle Shanahan to be able to use and manipulate defenses with. And with him and Ray McLeod as really good support system players for the top three wide receivers of the 49ers, they have all the weapons they need for Kyle Shanahan to take advantage. Next up on the list is going to be Colton McKivitz. I think Colton McKivitz can come on the scene and be mentioned as one of the better tackles in this league. The same way that Banks and Burford came on the scene, and I think Banks is a really good example of the type of rise I think Colton McKivitz is going to have. McKivitz has definitely improved since he was drafted. He was drafted in 2020, and he had a rough 2020 season. In 2021, his training camp wasn't good, and he got waived. He ends up on the 49ers practice squad, and then eventually gets elevated to the active roster, starting in a couple of games in place of Trent Williams. In 2022, there was definitely a difference from Colton McKivitz. He was a lot better from what we had seen in 2021. 2022, he's more confident. He's a better pass blocker. He's more aggressive in the run game. There was just a lot to like about McKivitz, enough so that it was easy to say he was the sixth offensive lineman as far as swing tackle and that sort of a thing. And I thought he looked really confident in the starts that he got. He played well, and he's good in pass protection, which is a little bit different from Mike McGlinchey. Though McGlinchey is one of the most proficient run blockers in the entire league, he lacks sometimes in the pass blocking area. Colton McKivitz is the inverse. He's very good in pass blocking and needs to work more on the run game. This is that switch I was talking about with Chris Furster possibly liking players that are better in pass blocking situations and then continue to develop them as far as helping in the run game. I think that is where Colton McKivitz is, but he has the opportunity because of the style of offense the 49ers run and the playmakers the 49ers have on offense to be able to have a very good season. I think McKivitz is set up for a big breakout year, and he can make an impact on this 49ers team because that's the one spot they need to solidify on this offensive line. We've seen the other four guys play together, but Colton McKivitz is the biggest question mark. If he can be an impact player because of the amount of reps he gets, and he just gets confident playing next to Spencer Burford, I think it can make a huge impact on the 49ers, enough so that they could ride it all the way through the NFC Championship and to the Super Bowl. That's how clutch Colton McKivitz is playing right tackle. So I'm extremely excited about his abilities because he's a guy that you can definitely see has durability. He has a lot of strength and a lot of intelligence. And we're talking about a guy that in 2020, the 49ers were so high on, they considered drafting him in the third round as their left tackle of the future. Of course, that did not happen because the 49ers traded for Trent Williams. Then they turned around and drafted Colton McKivitz in the fifth round. I think the expectation was always going to be at some point the 49ers were going to have to move on from Mike McGlinchey. They knew it financially. It wasn't going to make sense, and they needed a capable backup, and they've got a capable starter now in Colton McKivitz. So it's going to be fun to see what he can do in this 49ers offense. And I think if he does establish himself, the 49ers got to feel very confident about that starting five going through this season. Next up, believe it or not, a lot of people have been talking about the 49ers tight end position, and a lot have been talking about Braden Willis. And I do believe Braden Willis can have an impact on this team. He's a very established blocker. He's got a lot of physicality. I like the way he's going to be able to play a multitude of positions. But a guy that I think could be a little bit of a out-of-nowhere player is his counterpart, Cameron Latu. I think Cameron Latu is being overlooked a little bit because everyone's seen him go from playing defensive end to playing tight end, and they're concerned about that transition. I think that when you look at Latu, there's a lot to like. The size, the athleticism. He's definitely got some ability there, and he's willing to work hard. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch talked about his recall, the fact that he could remember just by watching film, hey, coach, this next play is not good for me. Shows an intelligence that's going to help him translate to playing in the NFL. One of the most difficult positions to translate to is tight end. And when you're going to have a lot of different motions and shifts and just learning what your routes are, all the while trying to get better at your craft, it can make it difficult. But I think Latu's going to make a couple of plays here or there that make us think, okay, this guy's on the scene. And let's be honest, besides George Kittle, there hasn't been a lot of expectations on the 49ers tight ends. Last year, Tyler Kroft, it felt like he had a couple of catches in games. Charlie Warner is a good blocker. Ross Dwelley was inactive for most of the season. So making an impact of the tight end position could be very easy for Cameron Latu and for Braden Willis. I think both of them could be out of nowhere impact players. I just feel that Cameron Latu will be more out of nowhere. That's why I chose him, for this position. I think he could definitely, make an impact on this 49ers team. So here we are with a few of the out of nowhere impact players. And like I said, this is something the 49ers have happened consistently. I'm really curious who you guys think will come out of nowhere and make an impact for the San Francisco 49ers in 2023. Is it going to be somebody, like an Isaiah Oliver, or hey, is Samuel Womack going to get his opportunity? I think is something interesting to watch. Maybe your guy is Kalia Davis. I'm curious. Could you consider Drake Jackson an out of nowhere? I think there's a lot of expectations on him, so I didn't consider him out of nowhere. But there's a lot of fun stuff coming with this conversation because these guys are going to be expected to step up and make an impact for this 49ers team in 2023. And if the right guys do and they come through with an impact that we've seen from other players before, it could not only result in wins, but helping the 49ers get over the hump and get to the promised land that they want to get to. Is that Super Bowl again? Super Bowl 6 for the 49ers would be something they would desperately want, but it has to happen with all players working together. So thank you so much for watching. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, on the push for 4,000 subs. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Lots more great content coming your way. But until then, stay safe and remember the right way is always the 49ers way.